Hi, I'm April. I'm so excited to be doing this Facebook Live today. To be honest, my heart has been pounding. It's been racing because I'm going to be revealing more of who I really am. And I've been feeling that I needed to do this for so long, and I've been kind of hiding out. I think all of us go through a time where we are trying to show up in the world as authentic as we can be, but then there's a part of us that's scared that if we share too much of who we really are, that we could be rejected, or what will people really think? Or will I sound too weird? Or will I be too churchy or too religious or too, um, will people be turned off by it? We have so many different fears that come through, and I've been feeling that. And I think that sometimes God taps you on the shoulder and nudges you to go out there in a bigger way and share more of who you are, what you believe, and what you're here to do in the world. And when we get that kind of a call, that's what I call it, getting the call. We can either accept the call or deny the call. And I chose to accept it, to say a full-bodied yes to it, no matter what anyone thinks or says. That doesn't mean I'm not still scared, right? But I'm doing it anyway. Feel the fear and do it anyway. So thank you for tuning in. I see a lot of you. Hi, Billy. Hi, Sophia, Chris, Mike. Hi, David. Thank you so much for tuning in. So I'm going to be talking about, okay, this is really the unfiltered truth. For the last 4 months, I have been doing some deep inner work, spiritual work, and healing, as well as some clarity work. And I've been working with a spiritual coach, and he challenged me. He said, your next step is to go out there and tell the truth about who you are and what you're up to in the world and this gift that you have. And I'm like, oh my gosh, are you serious? And so I agreed. I knew it was going to happen anyway, so here I am. I'm doing it on a Facebook Live, and I'll be sharing more about this as time goes on. So here's what I know for sure. I am a messenger. I am a messenger with a big calling. And I have known that I have a big calling and that I'm meant to be famous for most of my life. Even though I didn't know why or what I was supposed to do, what I was supposed to be talking about, or what the message was, I knew there was something there. As a matter of fact, I was in the car with my mom when I was 14 years old. And I remember we were just driving, right, in the family van down the road. I was about 14. I was just staring out the window. There was a song playing on the radio. We lived in White Sands Missile Range, New Mexico at the time. My dad was a Marine and stationed there in the military. That's why we're living there. And something just hit me. And I looked over at my mom. She was driving, and I said, Mom, I'm supposed to be famous. I'm going to be famous one day. I said it matter of factly, and she smiled and said, oh, I know, honey, you were so talented. And then I said, no, Mom, I'm really supposed to be famous. I don't know when or what or how, but I am. And it was like this moment of clarity, or this methodical moment. And I turned and I looked back out the window, and I just kind of pondered this for a little bit. And I know that my life has taken me on a journey where I've had opportunities to be interviewed on television, on the TV show Shark Tank, on Fox Business Network, Fox News, um, NBC Daytime, the Los Angeles Times newspaper. I mean, all different opportunities. And then I also, in my early 20s, I did some acting. And so I got paid to be a paid actress in a couple of local and a couple of national TV commercials, local TV commercials, and national TV commercial. And when I was doing it back then, I remember thinking to myself that I just wanted to be seen and heard. I wanted attention. I wanted what I really wanted was to be loved and accepted. And I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I didn't even know it back then. But what I want you to know, that there is a higher purpose for fame. There's a holiness to fame. And if you are a messenger, if you've got a big calling on your life, in order to fulfill your mission, you are going to have to be more famous. It's part of your calling to be more famous. And I know that that's part of the work I'm here to do in the world. I'm here to help messengers who have a big calling to become more famous, to reach thousands or millions of the people that they're called to serve with their life-changing message, their life-changing story, or their service or their product that can be life-changing for people. It's a very important mission, and I can't ignore it anymore. It won't leave me alone. Um, and not only that, I'm here to help them to use my skills of being able to read energy and to be able to connect with Jesus and have conversations with Jesus and connect them, teach them how they can create a stronger, powerful connection where they can hear directly from their higher purpose, their calling, the person, whoever it is that is there, something greater than themselves. God, Jesus, the universe, whatever it is. For me, it's Jesus and God, whatever that is for you. And so I'm here to help with my marketing knowledge and skill and helping you to read your energy so you can become more magnetic and attract more people. So I want to share with you on this Facebook Live. I'm literally just navigating this as I go. I have no idea how this journey is going to unfold, but I know that I have to come out about this. It's time. And it's time that I step up and allow myself to be seen on a greater scale, and not only be seen, but show more of who I really am, and stop being afraid of what other people think, and fear of rejection, fear of failure, fear of being found out. A lot of people have that fear. I've had a fear of being found out around money, and fear of being found out that maybe I'm a fraud. Who am I to do this work? And if you're a messenger, or if you own a business, or if there's something you know that you have a bigger calling to do, you're probably fearing that, feeling that too, and you've been hiding out a little bit too. So my intention for today is to help you I'm going to share the signs that are pointing to let you know if you are a messenger with a big calling. I'm going to share what those signs are. And then by the end of this Facebook Live, you'll know if you are a messenger and if you have a big calling on your life and what that is. So stay with me. We're going to go work through all of that. And then my intention is that this will be a catalyst or an awakening, so that you will know that you've got a big mission to fulfill, a big purpose, a calling, and it's time for you to take that seriously and do that. There is bigger work in the world for you, and I know that because I had that happen to me too. I'm going to be sharing my story, and I'm also going to be sharing the messenger's journey, and I'll be sharing some other signs where you will be able to look into your own life and your own experiences and what's been going on for you, so you'll know if you are one of us, if you are also a messenger. So let me start by saying thank you again for coming. I see you, Gary and Shelley McDowell. I see you, Stephen and Shelley and Bowden. I see all of you here with me. Thank you. I guess I'll start by sharing my story. I'm going to share it the shorter version, and then I'm going to share with you signs that you may be a messenger, and then I'll share with you the ending, towards the end. So my story began very early in my life. Grew up in a big family. Dad was in the military. I learned at about 11 or 12 years old that I was adopted. And my mom was my biological mom. She gave birth to me, and I did not have a father in the picture at the time. She was a single woman, single lady at the time. And when I was about 3 years old, she met my dad, who raised me. He adopted me when I was about 3 years old. They were married, and he legally adopted me, and I took on his last name. I was April Skelton. That's my maiden name. That's my dad's name that raised me. And the way I found out is my stepbrother and a neighborhood kid told me that my dad was not my real dad. And of course I was shocked. And then I had all kind of feelings and emotions flood in, like, feeling like why wasn't I wanted, or who am I? If I'm not that, then who am I really? I think we've all go through a time where we start to question our identity and wonder if we're worthy, right? And so from that point, I just finally accepted it. My dad told me the whole story, and to make a long story short, I moved through my life, always trying to prove my worthiness. I was always trying to be good in school, be a good girl, be good at church. I grew up in the church. We went to church every Sunday and oftentimes on Wednesdays. And so I was always trying to be good enough, and I never felt like I was good enough. And when a young woman or a young man feels like they are never good enough, they start to attract situations to prove that to be true. So at 16 years old, when my dad was in Okinawa, Japan, the last year in the service, and my mother was left in the United States to raise me and my three younger brothers until he completed his assignment and then could come back home to be with a family, I got in a relationship. I was searching for love in all the wrong places. I was trying to, again, get the attention and the love that I craved. And I was trying to prove my worth through seeking it in finding men and people to love me and give me attention. And then I got into an abusive relationship. And not only did that happen, I got pregnant at 16. And my family was devastated, to say the least. We had talked about me going to college, so the plans for me going to college and all that kind of took a detour. So I left high school and was in this relationship that was very controlling and abusive for 6.5 years. And I found myself by age 23 years old. I stayed in a battered women's shelter right before I left. And I found myself 23 years old, two little kids, moved from Georgia to Indianapolis, Indiana. My mom and dad lived here at the time. They helped me. They let me stay with them. And then from there, I basically started over. I had nothing. I had no money. I didn't have a car. I just had a few clothes and a few items for my kids. Have you ever been at a place where you were starting over completely and you're thinking, now what? That's the place I was in. So I learned a lot of lessons on that journey. I learned not to allow anyone to tell me what to do anymore. And I learned to not allow myself to be treated that way anymore. And so as I moved through life, I had other situations that happened. And then I started proving my worthiness, and yet again through my work. So here I was with these two kids. I was dating. I was going out to clubs because I didn't have much of a childhood or of a, early 20s and things like that. I skipped all that because I had babies at home. And so then I started going to clubs and going to out dancing with friends and going on dates. And then I dated people for longer periods of time. And I wasn't that good of a mom. I know it could have been a worse situation, but that's something I had to forgive myself for too. As a matter of fact, I let my son go and live with his grandparents in Georgia at one point because I just couldn't handle it anymore. He needed additional help and attention and was getting in trouble at school, and I made a decision, and it was a painful decision, but I was too young to think it through and make the right decision. That hurt our relationship. I had to forgive myself for that also. I think we all go through life and make decisions that we've got to forgive ourselves for. And we've got to ask for forgiveness for our kids because none of us are perfect. We're not perfect. And for a long time, I couldn't even tell the truth about it. Some of the things that happened, like that my son asked me about later in life, it hurt him. And I couldn't even tell the truth because it was too painful to me to admit that I hurt him like that in some way. But I finally found the courage through prayer and faith, and through God's help to own up to that and finally ask for forgiveness and to forgive myself for it. That was healing, part of my healing process. So I turned into a workaholic. Had these two kids, was doing great, turned into a workaholic. And guess what? I hit rock bottom. I was working, but I wasn't making any more money, right? Because I was working in retail management. I loved my job. I loved the type of work I was doing in cosmetics, but I wasn't earning enough money. And as a result of that, I hit rock bottom. It was the moment that I didn't have money to pay for groceries. I didn't have any money left over to pay for groceries. I was driving home from work, I was praying, and I was asking God, how am I going to get groceries for the I don't get paid for the next 2 weeks. And I was praying, God help me, I don't know what to do. I drove home. I was wiping my eyes. I get out of my car and I walk up. I was living in, I had a trailer. I lived in a mobile home park on the east side of Indianapolis at the time. And I see a box sitting on my front porch. And I'm like, maybe the postman delivered it to the wrong address. So I walk over and there's no address on it. I open up the box and it was filled with food. I couldn't believe it. It was a life-changing moment. I had just witnessed a miracle. How did the person know that I needed the food right then? And I had just been in my car crying and praying for help me. What am I going to do about food? Right? I want you to know that miracles happen in everyday life through prayer and believing. And if you need some kind of miracle for your life right now, or something's not working, or you need to know the answer to something, you can receive a miracle because it can happen. Getting the answer, a messenger can be sent to you with the answer, or somebody can deliver the answer to your prayer, just like what happened to me. I picked up the box, I went inside, and I made a life-changing decision. I got angry, I started pacing, and I said, never again. I am going to find a way to change my life, to be successful and create a better life for me and my kids. I don't care what it takes. I am going to find a way, even though it seems like there's no way right now. And that's when I started studying successful people. I bought my first self-help book. It was called Live Your Dreams by Les Brown. I don't even know where I found the book. His story of struggling and overcoming great adversity and great odds and to triumph and victory, that changed my life. So I want you to know that stories change lives. It is a powerful belief that I have because it happened in my own life. It was a catalyst that set my life on a whole different mindset and a direction to have hope and be open to other possibilities. And that's what you're doing with your own story for others. Maybe you've had to overcome something hard. Maybe it's not food or struggling financially, or maybe it is. Maybe it's something else hard that painful that you've gone through. Maybe as a child, maybe it was a trauma, maybe it was something happened, maybe it's something that happened, a divorce, a painful divorce. Whatever it was, you may have your own story to tell or your own message. And so I kept reading books. I kept reading. I've read 125, 130 books by now. And I kept going. I switched careers. I applied what I learned. I started developing my skills in marketing and sales. And then from there, all of a sudden, it happened. It happened. I started working harder than ever before, and it worked. I went from earning about $9 an hour to generating $9 million in sales in 1 year and winning Salesperson of the Year in real estate. I couldn't believe it. I literally, I had more money than I'd ever had before. And I upgraded my house. I went from living in a mobile home park, sold my trailer, gave my trailer away. I gave it to my mom. And then I built a brand new house, a 2,200 square foot home, brand new, in a really nice neighborhood. I upgraded my car. I got a Mercedes Benz. I upgraded my lifestyle. And so then I kept feeling like, gosh, I'm making so much money, but then I feel like I have a lot of money going out too. Have you ever felt that way? You finally made it. You worked hard. You're making a lot of money, but you seem to be still living paycheck to paycheck. That's what I was doing. It seemed to be a cycle in my life. But where did it come from? Why was that happening? I found out the answer to that as my life kept unfolding. But from there, I had the idea for my lip gloss product. So after being promoted to the affinity marketing manager at a large Fortune 500 company for a new home builder, I did very well in that position, but something in me was driving me for more. I wanted to make even more income. I wanted to do even more and be more. So what I did was I launched my own business. I turned in my 2-week notice, my marketing job. It was 6 figures that was comfortable. I was scared to death. And I went out on my own with an idea that I had from several years earlier. I had developed a lip gloss called Thin Gloss. It made with ingredients to curb appetite. And then after that, I launched it. I literally just scraped together the money that I could find and put together. Finally, after a year of development, I launched it, and it started to take off. I was so excited. But then I noticed after the initial launch, it won Best Innovation of the Year, second place, in a competition for inventors in the state of Indiana. I was so grateful. I was featured in the local newspaper and on TV and in magazines and on the cover of 2 magazines. And gosh, it was beginning to be this big success story, right? And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, prayers work. My vision board is working. And then sales started to taper off a little bit. And what happened was I prayed and I was like, God, what am I going to do? I knew I had to do something to ramp up the sales in my business. I launched a YouTube channel and made it public. I set a goal to generate $1 million in sales in 1 year in my business. And I documented the journey on YouTube videos for an entire year, July 1st, 2009 to July 1st, 2010. And I documented everything, the highs and the lows of what it's like to be an entrepreneur. And I got on this journey, and by February of that year, remember my deadline was July 1st, 2010 to have that $1 million goal met, right? Gross sales. I was nowhere near the goal. I had made some progress. My product was sold in stores across the US. It was growing, but I was nowhere near that. And my biggest fear was failure. Oh my gosh, what if I've announced this? You see, in the past, I've always made those goals. Come hell or high water, I'm going to reach that goal. If I have to kill myself to reach it, it's done, right? Why? I didn't know it at the time, but I was trying to prove my worth through external things, like making huge goals, right? I didn't know I was doing that at the time. And so something happened. It was like a miracle. Towards the middle of February 2010, close to my deadline for this goal, I got an opportunity for a licensing deal. I, I was going to have a national TV infomercial for my product. It was going to air for my lip gloss. It was going to air all over the United States. I signed the contracts. Our attorneys were involved. It was an incredible experience. I was like, yes, I can't believe it. My dream has come true. I signed the contract. It was a done deal. So I backed off and stopped selling as much because it was written in the contract that I was going to be getting a royalty check every single month. It was guaranteed. And I was guaranteed to earn no less than a certain amount of money. So I thought, man, I just sit back and get my royalty checks, and they're doing all the work, developing it, marketing it, promoting it, shipping it. And so I made my announcement, July 1st, 2010. I created my YouTube video, so excited. Yes, I made my goal. I've almost made it. I signed a contract. It's estimated to be about $1 million deal once this thing gets launched on national television. I'm so excited. And people congratulated me. I got so many comments and kind words. And I was so excited that it happened. I really thought God had created this miracle for me. Little did I know, He was creating something even bigger that was meant for me to experience, that was life-changing, that would set me up for something else important, some important work that I'm called to do in the world. And so it got close at like a few weeks after that deadline. I hadn't heard from the infomercial company for a while. We'd already started the development, and I got the lip gloss, and they showed me the website and they were doing clinical trials. They called me and said, we have decided to cancel the whole deal. We're no longer moving forward with this project. Thank you for your time. They gave me a couple of vague reasons why they decided not to move forward with it. And I said, but let me help you. Let's try something else. They didn't want to do anything. They were just done. And I was shocked. I was in shock. How could I have my dream right there in my hand, holding it, and then it just was gone like that? How did that happen? I couldn't believe it. I was devastated. I was shocked. I was in shock. I was numb. Um, I was embarrassed. I felt shame. Um, I had a flood of emotions of what's wrong with me? Is it me? Did they cancel this because of me? Have you ever been in a place in your life where you had a big deal or an opportunity and something fell through? How about when things don't turn out as you had planned? Again, right? That's what happened. So the worst part of it was I had stopped selling. So I went through a loss. I lost almost all of my material possessions. I didn't have any money left because I thought I was getting a royalty check in the mail. It was written in the contract, right? Even though there was a little line in the contract that said we can cancel at any time as we see fit. And I understood. I moved on, but I slipped into a deep depression and I went through a dark night of the soul. And I couldn't pull myself out of it. And the worst thing was I was hiding it because I was pretending like I was happy and everything was great. And I would go to networking events occasionally or speak at an event, and people would say, "Hey, how's business?" And I'd say, "Oh, it's great. Gosh, great, awesome, thanks." But then I felt like I was lying because I was. I just lost everything. For goodness sake, my home went into foreclosure. I sold all my furniture on Craigslist. I sold my diamond engagement ring, and my Mercedes Benz, I gave it back to the bank because I couldn't make the payments anymore, and I moved in with my fiance Ilya, who's now my husband back then. All of this was going on behind the scenes without anybody knowing it. And so finally, I felt like one of my values is integrity and honesty. So I couldn't say stuff that I felt like I was lying. So when people asked me how things were going, I changed it and started saying, "Oh, it's unbelievable. Thanks for asking." Because I didn't want to be lying because like my soul couldn't take it because it was against my values. And so here's what I learned on that whole journey. I discovered that I had been um, tying my identity, my worthiness as a human being to external things. I was using external things to prove that I was good enough. And I also had lost my power. I was in a place of powerlessness. That is why all of that collapsed. None of that had to happen. I got really clear that I contributed to creating that. It didn't matter. It wasn't their fault that they decided to cancel the whole deal. I contributed to creating that. But I learned some big lessons and it changed me as a result of it. And so, long story short, I know this has turned into longer than what I expected, but I want you to know that what I learned from that is that I am enough. I had to heal something. I had to heal what happened in my past. Core wounds get linked up in our childhood. Those are the biggest subconscious or conscious limiting beliefs that we believe about ourselves. My core wound was I am a worthless, incompetent loser, and I am powerless. Those things got linked up in my childhood. It gets linked up between age 0 and 7 years old most often. And then we start subconsciously creating situations in our life where we start to experience those things to make it true. Oh, I am a incompetent loser or worthless, or I am powerless. And we aren't even aware that we're doing this. If you've had things that keep happening, patterns that keep showing up in your life over and over again, painful experiences, or maybe there was a past trauma that happened in your life, in your childhood, or and it could be anything from abuse to seeing your childhood pet, like a dog, be run over and killed in front of you. even a traumatic experience like that can cause children to link up wounds or negative beliefs about themselves that they carry with them into their adult life. So I went on this healing journey. And this healing journey, I went to counselors, I went to a therapist, I read a bunch of books on core wounds and healing and spiritual growth. I also went to a hands-on healer, like I was trying to heal myself and pull myself out of the dark night of the soul. A dark night of the soul is a place where you're not quite sure. It's part depression, and it's a place of not really knowing who you are. You're not quite that old person you used to be. You're not that anymore. But then you're not quite this new person that you're emerging into, the healed person. And because of this, you're in the dark. You're in the darkness. And you're trying to navigate that. And oftentimes that leads to confusion or being stuck or being frozen in fear or just playing small. And so that may be why you're not quite where you want to be if you've had that challenge in your life. Or maybe you're stuck replaying some old trauma that was painful and you can't overcome it. There is a way to heal it and to overcome it and be abundant and to be set free and to forgive and to live the life that you've always imagined. So I started learning how to heal myself is what I did. And then I started developing even more my marketing and sales skills. I continued on that journey. And what I learned also is in my business. See, this can show up in your personal life or it can show up in your business. And if you've gone through a painful experience, that is a clue, could be a clue that you are a messenger and that you have a big calling on your life. So some of the signs that you are a messenger and that you have a big calling on your life, I want to share some of those with you right now. I don't know if you want to take notes. You might want to take notes or you can just listen. If you've gone through some kind of a painful experience early in your life, in your childhood that you can remember, sometimes we can't even remember it. It could be a trauma. It could be anything from abuse to seeing a pet, a family pet that got run over in front of you and it caused a traumatic experience that caused you to link up a limiting belief or some kind of a wounding. It could be something as simple as one time I got an A on a test and I rushed home to get my dad's approval. And my dad was in his recliner and I handed him the paper and I said, I got my test back. And Dad, and I handed him the paper. And I was waiting to get a pat on the back, right? I was waiting to get the approval that I was seeking. And he looked over the rim of his glasses and he said, you know, if you would have studied a little bit harder, you might have gotten an A plus. But better luck next time. And he handed me the test. Now, as a little girl, I linked up in my brain. My brain was not fully developed yet with reasoning skills. So I linked up. Nothing I ever do is ever good enough. I am not good enough. I am worthless. I am a worthless, incompetent loser. If I can't get an A plus, that must mean I am worthless, right? In reality, that wasn't true. My dad didn't know any better. He was just trying to do the best he could at the time. He wanted to help me, not hurt me. He wanted to help me to grow into my fullest potential, right? But when we are young and children, our brain can misinterpret experiences that can lead us to believing that we are something that we're not. A core wound is a limiting belief that is absolutely not true, but somehow our brain links it up as the truth of who we are, but it's not true. So that's one way that you may be a messenger with a big calling on your life. The fact that I was adopted and the way that I found out about it, that was a traumatic experience and that made me start to question my identity and wondering why am I not wanted. And then other things happened when I was younger that made me feel powerless, right? I was bullied in school from 4th grade until 8th grade relentlessly. When it first happened in 4th grade, I linked up I am powerless against these bullies, right? So I carried this energy of powerlessness that bled over into my relationships, and it also bled over into my business, and that created the pain, the results that I was seeing show up. My income was not as much as it. I was struggling financially for years. Powerlessness is what causes that. We have the power to create the life we want. We have the power to create the income we want. We have the power to create the relationships that we want, and the business that we want, and the success that we want, and the fame that we know we're meant to have, because we're meant to serve more people, and we have something that can help them. What is that for you? So here are some other ways that you may be a messenger with a big calling on your life. So the first thing we talked about is, have you been through a painful, traumatic experience in your childhood? Anywhere from abuse to the look of a parent that looks at you, gives you a look over making a B instead of an A, for example. Or it could be getting bullied, or anything. It could be another way that you could be a messenger is if you have illnesses that show up. If you seem to be sick and you get illnesses that are unexplained, or that could be a sign that you are a messenger with a big calling. And something needs to be healed within you. Whenever there's dis-ease in the body, disease in the body, with your heart, with your lungs, with your an autoimmune disease, that means that there is something within yourself that needs to be healed, and it's manifesting as dis-ease in the body, or an illness. Could be a chronic illness. You're just chronically sick. Or maybe you go through periods of being okay and periods of being sick. There's different degrees of it. That could be a sign that you're a messenger with a big calling. For some people aren't sick as often. You can still be a messenger even if you aren't sick that often. Maybe you've already done some inner work for healing. Another sign that you may be a messenger with a big calling is, it's some deep inner knowing. Somehow, on some level, you've always kind of known that there's something more for you. There's something bigger for you, and you can't quite put your finger on it, or you're not quite sure, but it's a restlessness in your spirit. It's something that won't leave you alone. It's like something that taps you on the shoulder, that keeps reminding you to explore this, or go do it, do something else, search somewhere else. But it's like this inner nudge that won't leave you alone. Maybe you know what that is. Maybe you know it's just a deep knowing that you absolutely know you have a bigger calling to fulfill. You know you have a message, and you're meant to be out there in a bigger way so that you can reach more people and help them. You already know it. You just don't know how to do it. That's a sign that you have a big calling. So there are many different signs out there. I want to take you through the common, I call it the messenger's journey. It's similar to the hero's journey that the famous philosopher Joseph Campbell talks about. He's now deceased and gone on from this earthly life, but he studied the most famous stories in history, and he found a common theme: 12 stages of the hero's journey. For me, I saw that as messengers, we also have stages of our own journey. So if you've got a pen and paper, I want you to write these down. This is a sign that you could be a messenger with an important calling on your life, and it's time for you to heal something. It's time for you to go the next level. Number one, there's a core wound that was linked up in your childhood that you either know about or you don't know about, or you've been hiding, or you're keeping a secret. Keeping a secret over many years that you've stuffed back in the back part of your mind and left it there, either out of fear of hurting someone else, or out of fear of like feeling the pain of that. Like you just can't, you don't know if you can take the pain, so you just sweep it back behind you and leave it alone. So you've had some kind of a core wound that was linked up in childhood. Almost every one of us have that that's happened. And by the way, core wounds aren't all bad. They actually can help you to develop some of your greatest strengths. But there comes a time when your core wound, when it starts to develop patterns that are harming you, that are harming your life, that are holding you back from reaching your full potential, that have hurt you over and over again, and you know it is time that it is finally healed or transformed. That's how you know when it's starting to harm your life and it's become really painful. That's how you know it's time to transform it or heal it. So the next stage is you go through life, and you, after a painful experience, you have a series of other painful experiences. And what I mean by that is because of this core wound, you have created in your life a series of other patterns, chronic behaviors that are creating painful experiences or stressful experiences over and over again. Getting married multiple times, getting divorced, okay, getting in the wrong, a chronic painful experience in relationships. You've gone through multiple divorces or multiple breakups, or a chronic painful experience where you've had a couple of failed businesses. Chronic painful experiences where you keep sabotaging yourself. Chronic painful experiences, another sign of this is if you have peaks of making a lot of income and then drops in your income. I'm talking about dramatic drops where you're struggling barely to get by, or another spike in your income and then another drop, significant drop where you're struggling to get by financially. That is a pattern. That is could be a sign that you are a messenger, okay? And it doesn't matter what stage of the journey you're in, you could be a messenger. That was part of my journey. That was part of my painful pattern. I was struggling financially, and then I'd make spikes in my income and then struggling financially again. Here's another sign, or another part of the journey. You've got this pattern of painful experiences, and finally you come to a breaking point. You reach the worst crisis. You have a huge loss. You have an emotional breakdown. You have some kind of or maybe it's just the pain has gotten so great, it reaches a tipping point where you say to yourself, I can't take this anymore. And it causes a tipping point. And the tipping point is when you literally make a decision to figure this out, to heal it, or to find another way. Something has changed in you. And that's when you start a journey. You start a journey of discovering, you're searching for answers, whether it's the next marketing strategy to help you, the right blueprint to help you in marketing, or it could be you're buying books on relationships to learn how to attract your soulmate and be the kind of person that is worthy of that is loved and that can be loved. Or maybe you go to a counselor, or then there's usually multiple things that you do in the searching phase. I've been through the searching phase. And so that's the next stage of the messenger's journey. You're searching for answers. You're searching for the elixir to fix your situation or to heal yourself. To heal heal yourself on the journey. The next stage is after you go, and by the way, this stage could be a long time. It could be years. You could be in a dark night of the soul where you're having an identity crisis. You're not this old person you used to be, but you're not yet this newly emerging person yet either. You're in the dark. Mine was 5 years. 5 years I was stuck and frozen in fear. I wasn't moving my life forward. So after you go and you learn, finally, here's the next stage. You finally discover the formula, either the magic blueprint or the formula. You find the solution and you are healed. Your mindset is healed. You usually, and here's how you know that you've got there. There's been a shift in your perspective. Something inside you has shifted. It's a old negative belief. You've shifted from an old negative way of thinking or believing or an old mindset to a new way of thinking and a new mindset. The next stage of the messenger's journey is you hit rock bottom. You have a rock bottom moment. Usually the rock bottom moment is it can be right before or even after you have this next stage. The rock bottom moment is when you are at a complete loss. Nothing you have done has worked. You don't know what else to do. Maybe you're at your lowest point ever, and this has drawn you closer to God, to Jesus, to a higher power, a force that's greater than yourself. You reach out to that force or that power for help. For me, my rock bottom moment was in my living room, and I had a prayer. I prayed, God, help me. And I said, Jesus, I can't do this anymore. I cannot do this anymore. I don't know what else to do. I have tried to heal myself. I don't know how to do this. I completely surrender. I give you my life. I give you my business. If you want me to quit being a business consultant, if you want me to quit making YouTube videos, if you want me to quit blogging, if you want me to just be a stay-at-home mom and take care of my daughter, Ailey, I'll do that. I'll quit everything if that's what you want me to do. Just tell me what it is. I want to do what you designed me to do in life rather than what I think I should be doing. And so I surrendered. So that next stage of the messenger's journey is when you surrender to God. You literally, you don't know what else to do. You're at a loss and you go, God, here, I give it to you. And it is sincere. It's usually a prayer. And you let it go. It's a letting go. It's a letting go of trying to make your plan happen the way you think it should look like, on the time frame you think it should look like, and you let it go and you go with a higher plan, God's plan for your life. That is the next stage of the messenger's journey. And I want you to be thinking about the stages I've described so far. Maybe you're at that stage now, or maybe you're beyond that stage. What stage are you at now, if any? After I had that moment of surrender, I prayed. I literally it felt like Jesus was in the room with me. There was a Holy Spirit that wrapped around me, that felt like I was wrapped in this warm blanket of complete, unconditional love and healing. I don't know what it was. I've never experienced anything like that before. It healed me. Something healed me. Something shifted. It transformed. And I can't describe it. I can't describe what that feeling was like. But it was as if I had been carrying a weight of like this pack of 100-pound boulder on my shoulders my whole life. And it was as if I just dropped it on the side of the road and I left it there. It was a lightness I've never experienced before. It was life-changing. That was the next step of the journey. That's what I want for all of you, all of us messengers. I want you to experience that moment. It was a letting go. It was a letting go. And I know from that experience that I knew that I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do, and I didn't know how to do it. But I was learning to trust. What that's doing is you are learning to let go of your need to control and learning to trust. That is the third stage of spiritual growth. That stage is required to be a messenger and share your big message with the world and fulfill your calling on a greater scale. It's moving into that next stage of spiritual growth, releasing control, learning to trust, and to let go and be guided. while you're taking action at the same time. It's both simultaneously. That is developed over time through practice. The next stage of the messenger's journey, I see you, Harrison. I hear you. I see you, Doug, Annette, John. Thank you for being here. The next stage of the messenger's journey is after you have this moment of clarity. You have already either found the solution, right? Or you're still in the phase of searching for it. Now you're being guided rather than trying to use just logic to figure it out. You're in tune with your soul, and you're in tune with a higher power that's guiding you, right? It's being open now to allowing yourself to be guided to the answers that you're seeking and searching for. And so here's the next stage. Get ready for this. This was a big one. Even after I had that experience, I was still stressed out, right? I was still stuck. And that's when the next thing happened. The next stage of the messenger's journey is to make a decision. I remember and God, I know God did this. He literally he causes you to see things or things cross your path because he's sending you messages. I was on Pinterest one day. The next stage is to stop touching the wound so it can heal. You've found the solution. You've healed yourself. You've done all you can do. God has come in. You've surrendered. You feel like you're healing. You've gone so far, and now it's time to stop touching the wound so you can heal. And the way that you do that, right before you stop touching the wound, you have to do inner work to heal the wound at the root cause, which is in your childhood. You have to go back in time and transform the meaning of the original event, usually between age 0 and 7 years old, when you linked it up. And you have to heal it. The way you heal it is through transforming the meaning of that original experience. The way I healed it, that moment, that little one of those moments in my childhood was when my dad said, you should have gotten an A+, but better luck next time. The way that I rewired that in my brain is because my little brain wasn't fully developed enough to understand what that really was. I had to say, oh, I see that, the truth of what that is. I am good enough. I am smart enough. And I misinterpreted that event. My dad was trying to help me, not hurt me. And he was only doing the best he could that he knew at the time. And so I misinterpreted that experience. And because of that, what I know now as an adult is that I am worthy, I am good enough, I am smart enough. You have to have a moment like that in your own life. I do a guided meditation with my clients called the Time Travel Experience. And I literally, it's an hour, it's like a 30-minute guided meditation where I talk them through, their soul goes back in time to an original moment or a memory, and I help them transform the meaning of it. That is how you cut the cord on that core wound, and you finally transform it and heal it and set yourself free for the rest of your life. And if you don't heal it at the root cause, it'll keep coming back over and over again. The pattern won't be broken. My pattern, that financial crisis pattern that kept showing up, financial struggle in my business and personal life, it's because I was trying to treat the symptom. I kept thinking if I bought another marketing training program or paid for the next guru or paid for another marketing blueprint, that was the answer. But even though I was buying those marketing blueprints and I had a great knowledge base of marketing, right? I would make progress, but then I'd have a dip in the income again. It's because I hadn't healed it at the root cause. It was worthlessness. My financial crisis in my business, the loss, the painful loss I went through, all of that was tied to the root cause, and it was the core wound, worthlessness. When I healed it at the root cause, that's when it was solved. And I'm happy to say that I went from struggling with about $400 a month in my own business to up to $13,000 a month. And I'm not sharing that to brag or not at all. I want you to know what's possible for you. And maybe yours is not financial, or maybe it is. But whatever needs to be transformed or changed in your life, you can do it by healing the root cause. That's the next stage of the messenger's journey. You heal it at the root cause. So you transform the meaning of the original core wound that was linked up in your childhood. That's what cuts the cord. Now, after you do that, there's another step. The next stage is you have to stop touching the wound. I marinated in the pain for a long time, feeling sorry for myself, blaming other people, um, avoiding it. And the truth is, even when bad things really do happen to us that are out of our control, right? Even traumas when we're children or in our adult life, even the trauma of me being in a painful, abusive relationship, verbally and physically abusive, to where I stayed in a battered women's shelter. I could continue being a victim of that, my circumstances. And by the way, when we're being a victim, that's caused from powerlessness. I had to learn to take my power back. And that's part of the healing process too. So you stop touching the wound. I was on Pinterest one day. I went through all this healing. And then on Pinterest, I see literally this little sign popped up, this with a spiritual, beautiful image on the background, like a ray of light and some trees or something. And it said, in order to heal the wound, you've got to stop touching it. It took my breath away. I knew that was for me. I knew Jesus sent me to see that. I'm like, he totally led me to see that, because I remember as a child, it's a decision to stop marinating in the pain or the loss. In that moment, I said, oh, I've spent 5 years marinating in this loss of what could have been, should have been, what I should have done different, the shame and embarrassment I felt, all of it. And it was sometimes it's time to be done. Sometimes the funeral's over. Sometimes, and that I use that as a metaphor for your life. Sometimes it's time to just be done with the depression. It's time to just be done with the pain. It's time to just be done with the loss. Cut your losses and move your life forward. You can't go back and change it, but you can start today and make a decision that you've grieved all you can grieve. Take the time that you need to grieve through all of the grieving process, but you've got to get to a place of acceptance. That's the final stage of grief, of grieving, is acceptance. And that's what it means to stop touching the wound so it can heal. That's when we let go of what we think or what we wish it should have been or could have been, and we accept what is. The next stage of the messenger's journey is taking your power back. Taking your power back happens through the act of forgiveness. It happens through the act of making a decision that you are going to get up and move your life forward. It's a decision. Literally, let me tell you how I came to this decision. 5 years. 5 years, I'm confused, in the dark night of the soul, depressed, trying to heal myself, but not quite being able to move forward. My business was struggling. What the heck am I doing, right? God will send you a message again, just like what happened to me. Pay attention for signs, clues, messages. God will send you a messenger also. One day I woke up. Here was my message. Here's how I took my power back. I want you to take your power back today too, if you haven't done this stage yet. I go downstairs. I have a spiritual ritual that I do every morning. I get up before my family. I pray. I have a quick little moment of silence, a little meditation, and I read scriptures in the Bible. I didn't always do that. There was years where I never picked up the book. 20 years. Long time. And then I literally just flipping through the book and I see a tab where I'd saved and I started reading. It was that scripture with Jesus at the pool of Bethesda. The pool of Bethesda was known for healing powers. That a lot of people that were lame and had health problems and things like that would come to the pool to get in the pool to be healed. And Jesus saw a man, they called him an invalid, laying beside the pool. And he learned that he had been there for 38 years. Holy cow, can you imagine? You were inches away from your healing, but you've been laying there for 38 years. Holy cow. I don't know about you, but if I had to wiggle a half inch, if anything, if it took me 10 years to do it, I'd do it until I rolled myself over into the pool for the healing, right? In the scripture, it says that Jesus looks at this man who's laying there and been laying there for 38 years, and he looks at him and he says, "Do you want to get well?" Oh my gosh, when I read that, I thought, Jesus is talking to me right now. Because I had been in pain, suffering, and wallowing in my pain in the wound for years. And I thought, yes, I want to be well. I want to put this behind me, and I'm ready to move my life forward. Yes. I said yes. I want you to say yes to your healing. I want you to say yes right now to you getting well. I want you to say yes right now for your healing. I want you to say yes right now for your financial breakthrough, for your business growing, for you to find the answers that you need, for you to move into your highest potential. It is time. It's time. It is finished. I don't know how long you've been in this place, but it's time. Here's what Jesus said next. He said, "Do you want to get well?" And this man said, "Well, every time I try to get I have nobody to help me into the pool. And every time I try to go and get into the pool, somebody goes ahead of me." Isn't that what we all do? We have those excuses. We have the excuses, or we're in denial, or we're lying to ourselves about something, and it's keeping us stuck. It's keeping us in the same old situation. And we're just making up excuses for why we keep laying beside the pool for 38 years instead of getting in there and getting our healing or creating the life we're meant to have. And so after this invalid said that, guess what Jesus said to him next? And the whole time I'm thinking, oh my gosh, he's talking directly to me. This is for me, right? Then he says, Jesus said to this man, "Get up. Pick up your mat and walk." At once the man was cured. He got up, he picked up his mat and walked. Oh my gosh. I'm talking to somebody today, and he's telling you to get up, pick up your mat and walk. Claiming your power. You have the power to change your health. You have the power to change your business. You have the power to get your life back. You have the power to overcome. You have the power to move your life, create the best life you've ever had. You have the power to be happy again. You have the power to have a sustainable monthly income that is more than enough from now on. I'm telling you, because I've lived it, every bit of that stuff. I had to choose it. It's a choice. Today's the day. Some of you, I don't know who's on here, but you've been with me this long for a reason. That's the next stage of the messenger's journey. You make a decision to fully step into your power and take your power back. That requires taking your personal power to change what needs to change. When I read that scripture, that changed me. I said, I'm done with this. I'm taking my power back. That's who I was all along. When I was a little girl, I was a big dreamer. I thought anything was possible. It is. Anything is possible for you. I remember watching an interview with Jack Canfield, And Oprah interviewed him. And what he said in that interview is, what is your big dream? Think about it. What is the dream or the vision that you have for your life or your business? And he said, even if it's the biggest, craziest thing that feels impossible, what is that? And I thought for a moment. I said, yeah, I know what mine is. And then maybe you know what yours is. What would that look like? I want you to know, he said in that interview, the fact the fact that you can even think of it, that it can even come to mind, that you can even dream it, means that you have the capacity to bring it into reality, that you can have it. The fact that you can think it means that you have the capacity to have it and to create it. I'm talking about the big crazy dreams that seem impossible. Yes, you can do that too. Take it a baby step at a time. So the dream, what is your dream? If you are a messenger, you've been through one of these stages I've just covered. Maybe you're in the beginning stages. Maybe you're towards the end of the stage. Maybe you haven't even had that first aha moment where things have gotten so bad that you have the breakdown, you have the crisis, you have the loss, the huge loss, maybe a bankruptcy, maybe it's a loss of someone you loved, or someone was murdered, or someone there was an injustice that happened, or it's something. I don't know what that is, but there's something going on and stirring inside your soul if you are a messenger. The last stage, the next stage of the messenger's journey is you take your power back and you take action. By the way, that's how you get unstuck. That's what get up, pick up your mat and walk is you got to take action. I was frozen in fear, marinating in confusion. Yet first you got to stop telling yourself that you're confused. The more you say, well, I just don't know what to do. I've been praying. I just don't have I'm not getting a clear answer. You have to change your inner dialogue to, I am getting clearer and clearer every day. The answer is coming to me. I hear it now. I'm seeing clues all over the place. It's coming. I'm getting messages. I'm seeing it. It's on the way. I feel it. When you start telling yourself that, you'll have the clarity. Because you're saying that you have the clarity. You're focusing on clarity rather than confusion. And then you take action, even if it's the wrong action. You got to trust. You know what my action was? I didn't know what to do. I was scared to death. I was afraid of my calling. The next stage of the messenger's journey is you get the call. Get ready for that. Because that's when you're really scared. Who am I to be doing this? Who am I to be talking about this thing? What will people think? What will they say? What if I fail? You get the call. The call is to go out there and help somebody else to overcome that painful thing that you went through with your unique gifts, skills, talent, and your expertise and experience. And you use your life to transform other people's lives with your own message, what you've overcome, the lessons that you've learned, and you help them with your unique gifts, talents that you have. That's your real work in the world. That's your real purpose. And sometimes that means not being at a job. That's somebody else's purpose. Yes, there's a season for that. We have jobs and we do well, and we pursue those with just as excitement and enthusiasm and excellence. But there comes a time when it's time for you to go out on your own. You create your own business and you pursue this calling that you have on your life. And that calling is so important. It is so, literally, you're meant to reach thousands or millions of people with this. That's why you went through it. And let me tell you something. The greater the pain that you've overcome in your life, and if you've been through pain that was so painful that you didn't know if you were going to be able to get through it, you thought you were going to have a breakdown or something, and if that pain lasted over years, I mean, if you went through that, that means your calling is really big. That is a clue. So here's how the call comes. You often get thoughts in your mind about, oh, I need to help people with this. You feel led. Something in you is led to help other people, or to share a message, or to start some movement, or to start a business where you can help people overcome this painful thing that you went through. And it won't leave you alone. It keeps tapping you on the shoulder, and it's getting annoying, and it keeps pushing you, and you're feeling pulled, and then there's a part of you that's afraid, so you're pulling back. That happened to me last year. So what did I do? I was scared to death. My biggest fear was failure. That's the test. You have a test that will show up. Are you going to do it? Or what are you going to do? I jumped ship because I was too afraid. I was afraid of failure, afraid of what people would think. I was afraid to tell people that I have conversations with Jesus that are clear, just like me and you having a conversation. I have some strange, odd spiritual gifts where I can read people's energy, and I know things, and I don't know how to describe it. I'm not afraid of that anymore, but I was. So I went and got a job. I went back to my old job in real estate, corporate job. The total package they offered me would have been $153,000. I thought, yeah, man, that sure does feel comfortable. How many of you felt comfortable? You want to be comfortable? I got in there and I was there for 2 months. I was miserable. You know why? Because I slipped off my right path. God had intended me all along to do this work in the world, but I was afraid to do it. But I knew in my heart that I needed to do this. It's part of my calling. It was part of my calling to help people and to share this story, and to help you become the messenger and fulfill your calling and build a 6 or 7 figure business around it. That's why I have marketing skills. That's why I spent $60,000 on marketing training, right? And 25 plus years in successful marketing and sales. I'm here to help you to become more famous. And it's not the kind of fame that is ego driven, where you're trying to prove your worth and value just to get attention, or for the wrong reasons. There's a holiness for fame. And that is because you have an important mission and calling to fulfill. And it's part of your purpose to be more famous. You're meant to be seen by thousands or millions of people. My calling is to help you to get in front of them, and to craft your messaging in a way that communicates what you do and this important message that you have to share, so that people will respond to you, so you can actually help them. And it will help you to sell more of your products and services too, because you've got to be able to provide for your family. God wants you to prosper, and he wants you to prosper and fulfill your mission and your purpose and your calling at the same time, while you are transforming and changing lives in your unique way. That's what I'm called to do. So in that job, I was there for 2 months and I didn't sell anything. I was on the verge of closing my first sale, but they let me go because I wasn't selling, right? Yeah, me, the person that won Salesperson of the Year, generated $9 million in that industry years before, but then now it's not working. That's because that's not my right path. It wasn't my passion anymore, right? So I want you to know that I care about you. I am challenging you that if anything I have shared, if you have any of the clues of being a messenger and that you have a big calling, if anything I've said on this messenger's journey, all the stages I went through, if you're in any of those stages, pay attention. If you have not gone through even the first stage, I'm talking about you haven't had your big crisis yet. You haven't had your big breakdown or your big loss. But what you've been doing is not working, and it's been painful, and it's been going on a long time, but you haven't reached the big crisis yet. but something about my message resonates in your soul. It's stirring your soul. There's something in you that says something about this feels like truth. It doesn't make sense because those things haven't happened to me yet, or at this point. I'm not quite sure if I'm a messenger, but something feels true about this. If that's happening to you, I guarantee you're probably a messenger. You haven't just reached the big crisis yet. And by the way, it could be a health crisis. It could be a breakdown. It could be a financial bankruptcy, lose a failed business, losing a business, filing bankruptcy, yet another failed relationship. Whatever it is, it's different for everyone. Maybe you're tired of this financial roller coaster and you have an epiphany. It can show up as an epiphany or an aha moment where you go, I'm done. I just can't live this way anymore. I'm done. I'm going to find a way. Period. That's it. It shows up that way too. Here's my challenge. If I'm talking to you and you know you're a messenger just like me and others of us out there, there are millions of messengers out there that know they're a messenger. If these things sound like you're a messenger. You have a big calling on your life. You're listening to this Facebook Live for a reason. It's time for you to say yes. I'm inviting you and I'm extending an invitation for you to say yes and take your power back. Say yes to your calling. Playing small doesn't serve anyone. I don't even know where I first originally heard that phrase or who said it. Maybe Marianne Williams said, but it doesn't. And if you've got this calling on your life, you're meant to prosper and you're meant to have a successful business, fulfilling, making a huge impact in the world and helping people through your unique gifts and strengths and talents, and to share your own message. It's time. It's time that you did this. Don't be afraid. I want to help you through this. If you need help, I can help you. If you say yes to this calling today, I would love for you to join us. I'm building a community of messengers that have a big calling. Excuse me. I'm going to eventually create a Facebook group for us to connect with each other. And I'd like for you to subscribe to my message. I send out a blog post every week, and connect with me on Facebook. I'll let you know when I have the Facebook community, but I'm building it right now. I'm not going to let anyone else go another day without getting their healing and without taking their power back and without using this pain for a purpose. There's a transformation. You're turning your pain into a purpose for transforming thousands or even millions of people's lives. And so that's all I have to share today. I'll be sharing more about some conversations I've had with Jesus. I talk with him regularly. I'll share more about this special odd gift that I have. I don't even know what to call it. I had somebody call me a modern day Yoda. I don't know what it is. I honestly don't know what to call it. Maybe you can help me come up with a new name for it, like a shaman or a modern day Yoda or something. My work is healing. It's the strangest thing. Isn't that odd? I help people with healing wounds, and I also help people with clear, practical, step-by-step marketing advice that's results-oriented. I mean, I remember hearing God tell me this, that my mission is to heal the world and heal hearts and mindsets. And I was like, God, is this a cruel joke? Because I've spent 25 years in marketing and sales. Why didn't you tell me this 20 years ago? And I would have started studying that part too. But it's because I have a purpose to fulfill. That's why I'm here. So, gosh, that's been a lot. This went way longer than I expected. Oh my gosh. So thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I care about you. I care about you deeply. And I want to help you to fulfill your calling and to prosper. That is my calling. And I'd love to know what your calling is too. If any of this is resonating, I'd love for you to in the comments or message me on Facebook or whatever. I'd love to hear from you. And I will be back soon. I'm going to be doing a series of Facebook Lives and talking more about this. I'm going to be talking about the holiness of fame. I'm going to be talking about um, getting clarity around what your real calling is and what your real message is. How do you identify what is the core message that you have to share based on your experiences? I'm going to help you with talking more about core wounds and healing those. And I'm going to be definitely talking about these conversations with Jesus and what he's told me about you and your calling and what he's shared with me about collectively the world, what it means, this higher holiness and purpose to fame, as well as just some other personal things that he shared with me about life in general. It's powerful. Thank you again, and I'll see you very soon. Kate, hi, thank you, love you, and thanks for hanging in there and listening. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.